Welcome back, and tonight I'm going to make a tamale pie, and I'm going to do it with some elk meat that I had roasted a few weeks back, and then I ended up putting it in the freezer. So I roasted in the oven till it got to the consistency where you could shred it. I had added some water to it, and I was able to get the broth off of the elk meat. I just kind of strained it off, so I'm going to use that in my masa. And I added to the meat my Mexican red chili that I made from scratch, and you can check that out on a previous video called Mexican red chili sauce with no oils or fat, and I have that on my channel. And I did end up having an extra onion laying around, and I thought, you know, why not add an onion? So that's what this is here. And now we're going to get started with making the masa. Okay, so you could get this at almost any store, and you're wanting it to be the type of masa that is, this is gluten-free, it says masa, and it has this picture on it. There's other brands also, and we're going to go ahead and measure out 2 cups of masa. And we're going to measure it out just like it's flour. So I'm going to level it off carefully so I don't make a huge mess. All right, and I got a giant mixing bowl, as you saw. 1, 2. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. And then we need, I'm going to go to the next dry ingredient. I'm just going to skip to the tablespoon of baking, half a tablespoon of baking powder. So again, we need a half a tablespoon of baking powder. And I'm going to scoop this up and level it off just like when we're baking. And I'm going to go ahead and take a fork here and kind of mix it up a little. And then I need to get the salt. Okay, a little bit of salt. Okay. Then our next step is going to be the broth. So I need to heat up, I'm just going to move that aside, and I need to heat up the broth. So we need a cup and a half of broth. Okay, so I'm going to measure it right into here. So I need what am I doing? I need a liquid measure. Okay, sorry everybody. I had my eyes dilated earlier. I was at the eye doctor, and that always throws me off a little. I apologize for that. Okay, so we need a cup and a half of the broth. So it has actually turned into like a gelatin. So I'm just going to scoop it out like this. And this is, like I said, this is literally the broth off of the elk meat. So it has a flavor. So if you make beef tamales, or or beef tamale pie, or you're using some sort of venison, or if you're using chicken and you actually use the broth, it tastes so much better. So that's a cup, and now let's go for the half. Makes it really have a nice flavor. Let's see how we're doing here. Pretty close. Just a little bit more. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and take this to the stove and warm it up. Okay, so we're going to heat this up until it turns into liquid. Just kind of mix it up a bit. Let it heat up, and then we'll check on it in just a few. Okay, so now I'm going to measure out the lard. If I'm going to use a lot of lard, I usually get the type of lard that's in the little plastic tub, which I prefer actually. But I knew I wasn't going to be using a lot, so I got this one. And of course, like I said, my eyes are dilated from the eye doctor, so I can't see that great. But needed to make dinner. This is what I had planned. So hopefully we don't get any paper in here. Okay. There, we got it. Okay, so first we're going to cut it. Make it easier. And one of these days I have to go ahead and do a video of how to cook and shred beef or elk meat or whatever. I apologize that I did not film that. It would have been nice if I had that all filmed as well. So let's just try to push this down here. I was going to use the spoon, but this is the only thing I don't like about using lard is it's not so easy to measure it out. So we're just going to get really close. And I think that's pretty darn close because I have some air pockets in there. And this is actually going to get melted after we do the broth. So I might have a little bit too much. I'm going to maybe just kind of shave off some of this. Okay. Okay, so this is all nice. It's all melted. So we are ready to bring this over to our bowl. Okay, so now I'm going to pour the warm broth in the masa. Okay, and now I'm going to rinse out my saucepan. Okay, I'm using the same saucepan because if I could use less dishes, I will. So I rinsed it out and then I turned on the heat and now it's dried. And so I'm going to put my lard in here to melt. I'm going to turn down that heat though, so it's still warm from before. Anyway, we'll check back. Okay, it is almost all melted. Okay, we're going to turn off the heat. We're going to take this over to the bowl. Okay, I'd like to mention that I'm not using a plastic bowl because we are having warm ingredients go into it. So now I'm going to pour my lard in, but I'm going to pour it in over here, I think, next to my dry masa. That's going to go over, but anyway. All right, so let's get this all mixed up. Now you can do this in a mixer, but I personally like to do it by hand so I can see the consistency. And this smells really good already. Okay, so let's review as I'm mixing this, I'm going to review what we have in here so far. We have 2 cups of masa, 1.5 cups of broth, 1/2 cup of melted lard, 1/2 tablespoon of baking soda, and a dash of salt. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick this up and kind of work with it with my hands because I know what it's supposed to feel like. And I would say, and this is what you have to just kind of do, this is why it's better to watch this on a video or watch it in person if you're lucky enough to have somebody you know that knows how to make this. We need some extra flour. I could tell this is just too mushy. And sometimes that happens because the different density of the your broth, there's a lot of different factors. So we're going to very carefully add a little bit of the masa, a little bit extra. Okay. I'm going to do an extra heaping tablespoon. And let's see if that's enough. looking better, but not quite. We need to add more. I add the same amount. See where we're at on this. Okay, we're getting really close. Mix it up some more. I'm gonna go get another glove. Be right back. Okay, so let's mix this up some more and see where we're at on things. Okay. Now this is looking correct. And let me try to do a close-up. I'm just going to kind of see the consistency. That's what you're going to want it to look like, okay? All right. So I'm going to go to the next step. I'm going to move my casserole dish over here. Okay, I got a really good scraper, so I can scrape it and put it all together like this. I decided forget the gloves. Okay. I'm going to kind of cut this in half. So you can really see the consistency. You get to the point where it's easier to handle. Okay. So now, here is my 10 by 15 casserole dish. I'm going to take, well, about half of that. I'm going to push this down, make it really thin. I can use this maybe. Help me out a little. Remember, we put baking soda in this, so it's gonna definitely poof up too. So I'm trying to get it pretty thin. Okay, hope everybody's having a good day. My day's been pretty hectic, so I'm getting a late start on the dinner. I'm going to continue to smooth this out and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I managed to get it all spread out. Just have to be a little patient with that. Now, next step is the meat. So I'm just going to go ahead and take and kind of just drop some meat. We'll spread it out nice and thin, like you would on a tamale. Well, tamale you'd roll it, but I'm just going to get some meat on here, and then I'm going to start just pressing it down to the edge, like this. We want to make sure you get it kind of, you know, as even as you possibly can. And this smells really good. The combination of the corn with the meat, very nice smelling, that's for sure. Okay, so I'm going to keep on doing this and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I've put this down, the meat, and I've pushed it down even with my hands like this. And now we are going to put some black olives on top. Okay, so I've started to put some black olives on the top of the meat. I think black olives are supposed to be good luck in tamales. So why not? And they taste good. Okay, so I'm going to continue to put a few more on, and then I'll check back in a minute. Okay, so I decided to put the black olives, and then I realized, you know what, I better smush these down. So when I put down the masa, I don't have a problem. So I'm just going to take a spoon and just kind of squish them in here. Okay, now it is time for the masa. I'll start with, I'm just going to do some of it. I think I'm going to try a lot of this with my hands. It might be easier. Do a thin layer. And I am running out of masa. So I'm going to have to go ahead and make up some more masa because this was not enough. I think I had thought that I was going to do a smaller dish originally. So I will make up a little bit more of the masa. I'm not going to bother filming it because everybody just watched me make it. So I would say probably half of what I already did would probably be ideal. Okay, so we got to this point. I did end up doing another cup of masa, 3/4 cup broth, a 1/4 cup lard, dash of salt, and a 1/4 tablespoon of baking powder. So that's what I ended up having to add. And now I just have it all nicely flattened. And I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to put cheese on here. Okay, so we had two options. I'm going to use cheddar cheese, by the way. Okay, so we had two options. We could have either done cheese, like I'm going to do, and that will hold in the moisture. Or I could have taken a corn husk, the type of corn husks that you use to do the tamales, and moisten the corn husks and baked it with it over the top. But I decided cheese sounded really good, and as far as I'm concerned, everything tastes better with cheese. So if you want to do it my way with the extra cheese, I'm sure this is going to make it taste better because, as I said, everything tastes better with cheese. So I'm going to continue to put the cheese on here, and then I'm going to put this in my oven at 375, and we'll check it in just a little while. All right, so I'll be back soon. Okay, so as you can see, the cheese is starting to melt. And it looks like down there that the masa is cooking well, but it is not quite ready yet. We're going to want to brown the cheese. So we'll be back shortly to check. All right, so it's done. As you can see, I browned the top a little bit. And I'm going to just let it cool off a little before we do the taste test. All right, it's time for the taste test. I put some sour cream on it, and I just cut them like the size. Oops, almost put them on the counter. The size of a tamale. So I'll show you kind of what I did here. I just like cut along the side. All right, I'm hungry. Let me get this taste tested, and then I can have the rest of my meal. I like it with sour cream, so I'm going to do it with sour cream. Sure, I get everything here. Okay. Came out quite delicious. Let's grab some more of that meat. Very, very good. Can't wait to put my feet up and enjoy this meal. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is a lot easier than doing the tamales the traditional way, although one day I will do a video tamales the original way. I'm not going to make a promise on when that's going to happen because I need some helpers. But I hope you enjoyed this. I think you'll find it to be very delicious and an easy dinner to make. For those of you who subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. And if you don't, I hope that you do. It is free. And also, people can share the video with their friends, and maybe then they'll subscribe as well. Thank you for watching, and have a great evening.